This is a brief video tutorial on the use of Adobe Connect Pro at Michigan State University. First, we'll take a look at creating our own meeting, and then secondly, we'll take a brief look at the meeting room interface. So let's go ahead and get started by logging into the Adobe Connect Pro server, and we'll do that using the address of breeze.msu.edu. This will take us to our home page for Connect Pro, and near the top of this particular page we'll see Create New Meeting. So let's go ahead and click on Create New Meeting, and here we will provide some information in regards to our meeting. Those items that are listed with a red asterisk are those that are required. The other fields are options for us. So first, let's go ahead and name our meeting, which is a requirement. So I'm just going to call this my first meeting. And secondly, under custom URL, it gives us the opportunity to provide a custom URL as opposed to having the system generate one. This is generally helpful for our users and participants because we can put down a URL which will be more familiar to them and they will be able to remember it. So in this particular case, let me just put my first meeting as our custom URL. So for our meeting URL, it will simply be breeze.msu.edu/myfirstmeeting. Secondly, here we have an opportunity to put down a description of our meeting. Anything about the particular meeting that you would like your participants to know about in advance. For our purposes, we'll just leave that blank at this time. Next, we have the start time and date. So let me just go ahead and let's change this to August 12th. And let's make this at 3 p.m. Next, we have the duration of the meeting itself, the approximate time allotment, and it defaults to an hour, and we'll just leave that as it is. Next, we have the opportunity to select a particular template for our meeting. In this case, it defaults to the meeting template, which should be just fine for our use today. We're going to be using English as our language. And next we have some options in regards to access. This is how the participants are going to access your meeting. I like to use the third option, which simply is anyone who has the URL for the meeting can enter the room. This is the simplest for most users, and however, there are opportunities, times in which you may want to limit your access based on the sensitivity of the content or the specific private nature of the individuals that may be joining the meeting. At the bottom of this first page, we have audio conference settings. Now, in the future, we hope to have some additional options in using audio conferencing, but at the present time, using the built-in audio function of Connect Pro, the voice over IP, is generally the preferred choice at this time. So if we're using voice over IP, we will simply leave this blank for now, and let's go ahead and click Next to get to our next page. Now, what this provides for us is an opportunity to select our participants in advance of the actual meeting. That is, if you know who they are. And so in this particular case, if you're using this function, you really have to have a predetermined roster of the individuals that you want to use. In most cases, you generally may not have that information right up front. So we're going to go ahead and just skip this particular section because remember, we've developed a custom URL in which we will be sending to our participants and they will be able to access at that time very easily. So let's go ahead and we can click the next page. And this also gives you some options to send specific email invitations to the participants that you may have selected in the previous page. Since we did not do that, and we're going to be inviting our participants on an individual basis or even in a group setting, but we're going to be doing that at a later time, which just seems to make more sense to more people. So here we can simply click Finish, and this is going to give us an overview of the meeting that we just created. So again, it gives us our name. In this case, it's My First Meeting. There's a start date and time, the duration of the meeting, and the URL. It also talks about the language that we're using and the type of access that we're providing. Now, one note of reference on this particular page that's important to note. Even though the start time says August 12th, 2010 at 3 p.m., we or you, as a host of the meeting, can access this URL at any time. So you can go in, you can explore the meeting, you can upload content in advance, and those types of things that can be very, very helpful in preparing for the meeting itself. So next, what I'd like to do is just take a very brief look at the meeting room interface and talk a little bit about the windows and how things function. So we can do that right now. In fact, let's go ahead and enter this meeting room. And what we'll see is the meeting room window come up. And it's going to provide us the sharing template in this particular case. And so what we're looking right now on screen are what Adobe Connect Pro refers to as pods. So here we have a camera and voice pod, so anyone who has access to using a microphone or a webcam can be enacted and shown here in this particular pod. We have an attendee list. In this particular case, there's just one active user, myself. Next, we have a chat pod in which your participants can interact via text. And then there's a note pod in which you can add notes in particular about the meetings really at any point in time. Over here, the large pod window is our share pod. And as you can see, what do you want to share is the question. And we can share our computer screen. We can share documents that are on our computer. We can share whiteboards. And so that we can collaborate and with our participants. Now down here on the bottom of our page, we see that right now we're looking at the sharing template. If I go ahead and just click discussion template, it'll give you an idea of how these pods can change and that they're customizable. So in here we have a much larger attendee list. We still have our note pod. Our camera and voice pod has increased in size. So if we had multiple individuals that wanted to use our webcam, for example, this might be a better choice for you. Next we have the chat window, chat pod for texting. And here we also have a poll pod that you can create polls and your participants can respond to. And then there are also some discussion notes here. So let's go down here and let's take a look at the collaboration template. As you can see, things have changed a little bit again. Our camera and voice pod has decreased again in size. We have attendee list, we have notes, we also have the chat window that we can do. Now, a new window that's listed here under collaboration is file sharing. So you can share files with your participants, and the participants can upload those to their computer. And then here we're looking at a whiteboard that you can share with your participants as well. Okay, so now let's again very briefly let's take a look at just a few items up here in our menu. Under the meeting menu, we have an opportunity to manage access and entry for our particular participants. You can manage meeting information. There are room performance and appearance opportunities in which you can optimize bandwidth, screen resolution, those kinds of things. Um, in the present mode here, you have an option of making yourself a host, a presenter, or simply a participant. We have the layouts here, in which we've already taken a look at, where you can choose between sharing, discussion, and collaboration. Let's go back to our sharing layout that we started with. Over here, again, we talked about being able to customize our pods. We can do that very simply with some menu items here in the pods menu. And then there are some help functions that can be quite useful as well. Now, let's just jump down here for just 1 second, and I wanted to quickly, before we end, take a look at Manage My Settings. Over here, we talk about connection speeds. It is really desirable to leave this at the DSL cable mode. It will optimize performance for both yourself and the participants in your meeting. And the next item here is the audio setup wizard. I won't go into that right now, but I just wanted to say that this is an extremely important menu item here, and it's recommended that yourself as host, as well as each participant, go through the audio setup wizard. It's extremely important, and you'll have a much better user experience both for yourself as host and in particular for the participants of your meeting. So I hope that helps and provides you with a brief overview of how to create a meeting, and also how to take a look at the different options that you have in the meeting room interface. So I think that should pretty much wrap up this one. We'll go ahead and end this meeting, which gives us a little window there. And we've just ended my first meeting. So as always, please take a look at the website for more detailed information on how to use Adobe Connect Pro. And of course, there is additional help and support through MSU's distance learning services. The phone numbers there is 517-355-2345 or 800-550-1554. Thank you.